arresting the degradation that's happening to these pieces. But there are obviously, they're increasingly sensitive to how they should restore and conserve the front of this building. But I think from what I gather, and again, you're hearing my kind of it's a very recent re-engagement with this building. It's a place that I was taken as a very, very young child. Actually, my gran used to take me in there to see if I cried when they played on the organ inside. So it's got a particularly strange associations for me. So I could just about get in there the other day. I managed to get. I think we got to the we got beyond the transept, which was good for me. As far as I'm there are various waves of restoration work that is catalogued and is documented, and some of the books, some of the texts that you find back in SpaceX, they have really precise diagrams and illustrations showing you when things were done, and then there are particular waves that I'm interested in, waves of building work on this cathedral. From around kind of, let's say, there was one. We believed, my grandmother seems to remember, that he did work on this west front, on this image screen, before 1900. I started to doubt that, actually. I'm starting to wonder whether that was the case. We know he went to Ireland, we know he was in Arundel, but if you look at the records, around 1906, a fresh wave of restoration work happened on this building. They were used a particular type of stone, so we can pretty much be very sure, actually, what work was done from 1906 through to 1923. Now, I've got a feeling as well that this was a man who was itinerant, right? Stone carvers, stone masons are notoriously journeymen, right? Nick will tell you 7 years apprentice, 7 years journeyman, then they're allowed to settle and have their own workshops. They're on the road for most of their career. Now, we know he was in Cambridge, we know he was in Canterbury at some point, we know he was in Arundel. I'm not sure where, and we know he was in Ireland for a period of time. We know he was here, but he settled here. And so I have a hunch now, actually, that around 1906, he came here. 4 years later, he had a daughter, my grandmother, that you might have met yesterday. And he settled here. They did not move from that point. He died here in 1942 in the Blitz, the sort of lesser Blitz, in late April 1942. But nonetheless, they were here. The family has been rooted here ever since. This is our kind of family place, actually. There's a lot of my family that's been around here. Now, my hunch is that he came here, they were given a long-term contract. If you talk to Nick and Margaret, those people here that are working on contracts that are 10 years, there could have been a contract that was issued in 1906 that ran through to 1923. My hunch is he was working here for quite a while. My hunch is kind of backed up by the fact that what I thought was one gargoyle, we know, and I'll show you, there's a few things around here that we can pretty much attribute to him. Is that actually, when I came up here with Nick, he started to make me realise, if you look at the kind of signature, the kind of work that was being made, you can look all over this place and you can see similar work. So I've got a feeling he was here for longer than we thought he was, working on this building longer than we thought he was. probably wondering actually at that point, where are the gargoyles? What is the gargoyle? And it's not here. There's a moment in my grand's recollections, she says, I was so